Hi everyone, hope you're all doing good. Right, okay, so this is the third round draw for the 25th, edition of the Tapology Lucky Bastard Game. I forgot what game we was on there for a second, but yeah, it's the third round of the 24th edition. And so far, the wheel has been fairly kind. It's the third round, there's still 12 of you left in it. So once my Excel page loads, we'll just run through those names to remind ourselves. You'll have to bear with me because I've been having a lot of technical difficulties tonight. I'll go over that in about 5 minutes after I've done my usual intro, but everything is just taking forever to load. Uh, Anyhow, here we are finally. Right. Now, Boom Shakalaka, Calfoth, Cool Hand Puke, Damien Handel for 20, Dr. Maxis 2, Foghorn Sam, Piggybank, Rigno, Shat, the Dirty UFC Man, the MMA Historian, and Trick. So that's the dozen remaining lucky bastards left in this one. And for the third round, we have UFC 308, Ida Topuria versus Max Holloway. And that's, I've got to be honest, this is probably the best chance Max has had in his career of winning a full UFC featherweight title. Or like, well, I mean, obviously, I mean, it's. I couldn't see him beating Volkanovski really in any of those times, but this is the best chance of him to get that belt again. It was so it's obviously as I'm biased because I want Holloway to win. I've been watching him for so long. I've been uh yeah, like I say it's so obviously it's hard to it's hard to try and look past that bias. And to be honest, I don't really like Tapuria that much, simply because he just chats a lot of shit, and I generally just don't really like that kind of attitude in a fighter. But to be fair, he's made himself a shit ton of money doing that, so I suppose all power to him for that. Um, anyway, about the actual fight. Anyway, how do I think it's going to go? Again, I'm not sure if it's my bias, but I have got Max Holloway for a decision win on this one. Even though he's the underdog, I just think just got so much more experienced. And when you look at the guys Topuria has beaten, obviously he's beaten Volkanovski. That's the big one. That is one hell of an achievement, and I'm not going to try and downplay that one. I've heard some detractors say, "Yo, Volk turned around too soon after his knockout to Islam," and but at the end of the day, Volk agreed to that fight, and Topuria just knocked out who was in front of him on that night. And so yeah, that's a very good win. I'm not going to knock that at all, and he is the legitimate champion. But after that, we have obviously Josh Emmett, Bryce Mitchell, Jai Herbert, and it's obviously they're all big names in the featherweight division. All the names you have to get through to get to the title. But besides Volk, I think Holloway beats all of those as well. So really, I think Tapiria's only actually got one fighter on his record that Holloway hasn't beaten or couldn't beat rather. So yeah, so I've got Holloway to try and drag this one out for a decision. Like I say, that could be the bias speaking. Maybe I mean, if Tapuria wins this one, then yeah, I'm going to have absolutely no choice but to just sit up and take notice. But yeah, no, Max Holloway for a decision there is my pick for that one. But of course, you're not here to listen to my non-sensual predictions. You're here to see who you're going to get drawn with. And before we get started with this, I mentioned the technical issues I was having. Well, one of them is that our wheel seems to have called in sick today. So basically, I tried for the last hour or so to try and get the website I normally use, Wheel Decide to work. But it keeps coming up with error 403. I've had that come up a few times before. Usually refreshing the page just fixes that, but I've refreshed it numerous times, didn't work. I tried shutting down my computer, turning it back on again, logged in again, still didn't work. And because I'm not a fucking nerd, that is the limit of my IT troubleshooting. So in its place is the next one down on Google. This one called pickalwheel.com. It's I'm not sure what to expect because I've never used this before. This is literally I've not had the time to do a trial run of this, so I genuinely have no clue how long the spin's going to last for. I don't know if it's going to make any sound effects. I don't know at all how it's going to come up. So let's just hope this isn't a complete fucking disaster. Um, but yeah, let's see how lucky the substitute wheel is is for you guys. I'm a little nervous about this because if this is complete shit, then I've just wasted a whole evening. Um, Worst comes to the worst, I could always if we don't end up with a complete card, I could just always declare this one a void and just put you all through for next week. But I don't want to do that. That's last case scenario. So here is the substitute wheel, and can we call it the wheel? Do we have to come up with a different name for it? I don't know. But here's Boom Shakalaka to face. Boom Shakalaka is the dubious honor of being the first ever person to face this incarnation of the wheel. Just controller enter. That might. I'm just going to click spin. So Boom Shakalaka, best of luck to you for the substitute wheel. Let's see how this goes. Oh bloody hell, that's fast. Spins faster, but comes to a more abrupt stop than the last one by the looks of this. Okay, I'm not going to lie. I love that presentation much better. What is count plus one high choice? Hey, I don't know what they are. But anyway, what we do know is it's Carlos Leal for Boom Shakalaka. Carlos Leal. Let me I'm just it's a bit of pause here. I'm just waiting for the bloody Excel sheet to load again. Bloody Anyway, yes, here we are. Carlos Leal, right? I can start talking about him now. Yeah, so that's quite an unlucky pick. He's obviously up against Rinat Fakhramedov. I know I haven't pronounced that right, but the only thing you really need to know about Rinat is that he has just been consistently getting decision wins in the UFC, and okay, sure, that's probably why he's at the bottom of the prelims in terms of entertainment value, but he's been winning. That's all you can ask of a fighter. He's been going the distance as well, so that means he's been getting the rounds in. He's so going to have a lot more experience than his record may let on. Carlos Leal, well, this is his UFC debut. He's obviously come from LFA, UAE Warriors, and PFL. He's been all over the place actually. So he's got, by regional standards, if you can call them regional, very good backgrounds. And quite a lot of fights as well. 21-5, not too dissimilar to the 23-2-1 of Renat, but I've still got Renat to go out and do his usual thing and grind out another decision win. So, if I'm being honest, I don't think the substitute wheel has taken kindly. Maybe this is a more evil incarnation of the wheel. I hope not. Anyway, let's Calfoth is the. Let's move on to the next one. Calfoth is the next sacrificial lamb. Okay, now what do I do here? I have no clue what count plus one means. High choice, I'm assuming means get rid of this. I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to click done and hope that Carlos Leal is still on the wheel here. Where is he? Here he is, right at the top. Okay, perfect. So I just click done each time. That's perfect. Okay, so here's Calfoth taking on the substitute wheel of doom. Gets off to a very fast start again. Very abrupt stop. Yeah, I love that presentation. Wise, this is, yeah, I think I still prefer the old wheel, but that present there for Calfoth. I butchered the spelling on that one, but there's only going to be one guy on the card called Abus, isn't there? Right. Abus Magomedov. Well, I've got him to win by third round knockout here against Bruno Ferreira. Um, is okay. So his record is one of those that he's obviously been fighting fairly high ranked middleweight contenders. Obviously, one of the guys Sean Strickland beat as well. But those losses he's had have aged well, particularly the Strickland one. Uh, so he's not a title contender, and he's not necessarily there or thereabouts in the upper rankings of the middleweight division. But I do still rate him more than Bruno Ferreira. Uh, and that's quite a big compliment because Bruno Ferreira, he's a solid UFC fighter himself. I just think maybe a slight level below where Abus Magomedov currently is in his career. Um, he's obviously Ferreira's got the knockout power. He's mostly a KO artist, mostly won a lot of his fights by KO, but I'm just wondering how reliable he'll be in this step up. And I think this is just going to be too much of a step up. So um yeah, I think Cal Foth can expect to see the fourth rounds thanks to the substitute wheel there. Cool Hand Puke is next to face the substitute wheel. This is like the time at school with you're trying to feel them out. You weren't quite sure what you'd be able to get away with, but depends on the teacher though. Bit of a mystery package. That's probably a shit analogy, but you know what I'm trying to say. It's still uncharted territory. But Cool Hand Puke to face. Does it work if you don't click the spin bit? No, it has to be on the grey spin bit. Okay, can't be lazy about it because the old wheel just lets you click anywhere. Cool Hand Puke anyway. Good luck. I'm going to shut up here because I love the little jingle that comes with this. That's brilliant. I'm not going to get old of that. Maybe we can still bring this wheel out on special occasions or something. I don't know. I'm getting more distracted by the wheel now with the bloody game. Anyway, Bruno Silva, another good pick in my opinion. I've got him to win by second round knockout here against Ismail Nuridiev. Again, another name I've butchered. Apologies, Ismail. Um, yeah, so basically, Bruno Silva. I know you're probably thinking, well, why are you picking him? He's lost his last three fights, and yes, that's true. But those last three fights are against Chris Weidman, Shara Magomedov, who's also on this card, Brendan Allen as well. So they're all very high level. Especially, you can't really hold it against anyone for losing to those guys because they are uh, definitely within reach of the title picture, if not already in the title picture. Well, because I suppose maybe Sharia Magomedov still got a little bit of a way to go yet, but in my opinion, but he's a dangerous kickboxer. So again, that's a very respectable loss. So those losses aren't a true reflection of his overall ability, is what I'm trying to get at here. And again, this record's a bit misleading. 23 and 11. You think, oh, 11 losses, what's that all about? But no, that's but no, again, one of those fighters got a very misleading record. It wouldn't make it out of his local fucking leisure centre if he was a boxer with that record, would he? That's why I love MMA. The losses really don't matter as much. Anyway, as for Ismail, similar records, just only four losses less, 23 wins and seven losses. Most recently had fights in Brave FC, decent promotion. That's where obviously Hamza Chimaev came out of. Well, I mean, I didn't mean it like that. I mean, that especially won't go down well for a Saudi card, but you know what I mean. He's fought in Brave and well, bloody hell, that'd be a headline, wouldn't it? Anyway, going off on a tangent, but anyway, Bruno Silva second round knockout is my prediction for that one. So two out of three, I'd say so far for the new substitute wheel. Damien Handel 420 next. Actually, thinking about it, I hope that little jingle doesn't have any kind of copyright or any shit like that. Oh well, fuck it. Anyway, Damien Handel to take on this wheel. And here comes the banger. Yes, Kennedy and Shake, who you again, I absolutely butchered that one. Sorry, Kennedy. Uh, but yes, Kennedy and Shake for Damien Handel for can't even spell Kennedy now. Uh, for Damien Handel for 20. And again, that's another one I've got to win. I've actually got a first round one. It might be a little bit surprised here. It's a first round submission, what I've got him down as for my official prediction. Obviously, he's fighting Chris Barnett, heavyweight, and Chris Barnett's he's an underrated little fight. Well, no, not little. That is not the word to describe Chris Barnett, but he's an underrated fighter. He's surprisingly athletic for his size, but the thing is, he hasn't looked overly great on the ground, and Kennedy has got some decent little submission wins. He's shown better grappling, so while being heavyweights, you'd expect them to go for a knockout. I reckon if Kennedy plays this smart, he's going to just put on a boring fight for the casuals. Just take Chris Barnett down, or at least get him in some kind of standing guillotine, or maybe just wait for him to gas a little bit, and yeah, basically just go for that, go for the sub, because I don't think that Chris Barnett's going to have much of an answer to that if that he adopts that kind of a game plan. I mean, I know obviously that prediction is entirely made up of and based on a game plan that I've made up for him as if I was his coach, but that's what he should do. That is the path of least resistance, as they would say. But even if he doesn't, I reckon even in a stand-up war, he's probably still going to win. Um, Obviously, Chris Barnett is the literal definition of having a puncher's chance. Because with him, it will just be one clean punch, and it can end anyone's night. I mean, he keeps throw him in there with John Jones time and time again, and eventually he will end up winning one or two of those simply because of the power. But yeah, overall, a good pick there for Damien Handel 420. Dr. Maxis 2 next to take on the wheel. Or the substitute wheel, anyway. He gets Leroy Murphy. Leroy Murphy there for Dr. Maxis 2. So that, in my opinion, could be one of the best fights on the card. It has the potential to be. Featherweight fight, obviously, against Danage. It's even though Murphy has won four out of his last fights by decision, I wouldn't say any of those have been boring fights at all. But having said that, I do expect it to be another decision win. I reckon it'll be quite entertaining 3 round scrap. Whereas Dan Inch, on the other hand, he's got more experience, more fights under his belt. But the trouble is, there has been quite a few times he's gone the distance and not got the judge's nod. And against somebody who often does go the distance, who's used to going the distance as well, and consistently does enough to impress the judges, that's a horrible stylistic matchup for Dan Inge. But having said, I really can't see. I mean, if there's going to be a finish, it probably does come from Dan's side, probably by way of KO. But yeah, I can see Murphy just getting another decision win here. So yeah, that's just how I see it going. So Dr. Max's 2 might have to wait a full 15 minutes for confirmation, but I reckon that's it's going to have an entertaining fight to watch, and he's going to, yeah, should hopefully, well, hopefully for him anyway, wind up in the next round. Foghorn Sam next to take on the substitute wheel. Hope I don't accidentally hit high choice by mistake. That's the only thing. I will go back to the old wheel just for confirmation. This is just while the old wheel isn't working because I'm a little bit scared of how big that high choice button is, especially seeing it's bigger than the done button. And I know for well, one of these days, if I was using this one consistently, I would accidentally hit high choice by mistake. So, uh, so yeah, just because of that, actually thinking about it, this will just be enough about that. I can't get enough of that little jingle. Though. I love that. That little jingle's made my whole fucking day. It's made my whole week, actually. That's probably the best thing to happen to me this week, which is actually fucking sad when you think about it. Anyway, Foghorn Sam's take on the wheel. Let's see who he's going to be rooting for tomorrow night. He gets Armin Petrosian. Armin Petrosian there for Foghorn Sam. Yeah, that's he's got his work cut out against obviously Sharon Magomedov. It's I mean obviously there's a lot of hype around Magomedov. He's obviously elite. Well, to be honest, I don't know enough about kickboxing to whether to truly call him elite over there. I don't really know. But he was very good, at very high level at the very least. So Petrosian's definitely gonna be the underdog in this one. He's definitely got his work cut out. But having said that, this is definitely a step up in the competition. This is definitely the hardest MMA fight that Sharia Magomedov's ever going to have been in. Petrosian, when I was looking at him, I was quite surprised to see that he's only got a record of 18-3. I genuinely thought he'd had quite a few more fights than that. But if anything, that just goes to show what an impression he's made in those 11 fights. Obviously, last time out, lost to Adolfo Vieira, but even though Vieira's a bit of an older fighter now, I still rate him. He's still a very dangerous fighter, so I'm not going to hold that against him too much. And equally, one of the prospects that I do rate, Christian Leroy Duncan, he beat him by decision, and so yeah, he's no joke, Armin. And he'll be the underdog, but this is a winnable fight. It could be a very good little underdog to watch out for. Is he going to be the one to take away Magomedov's O? I don't quite think so, but he certainly could do. Magomedov's the favourite, but by no means a banker. But having said that, I have gone with him by a decision. That's a dangerous KO power, but there has been strong opposition that have taken him the distance, and he did look a little bit, yeah, a little bit lethargic in the last round of his last one. So it's I've still got a few questions that need to be answered about his gas tank. Hopefully, we'll know a little bit more in approximately 12 hours. But not a guarantee, but not completely out of it yet. Next to take on the wheel is Piggy Bank. We're halfway through the list. There's 6 down, 6 to go. Armin Petrosian for the other one. There's quite a big gap on my Excel sheet between because there's been quite a few ones that have been eliminated. So I just thought, yeah, Foghorn Sam, Armin Petrosian. We're with Piggy Bank now. There we go. This substitute wheel. We still get this. My take. Now I've butchered that one, so apologies for that. But you're just going to have to bear with me for about 3 working days while I type this one out. MYK TYBEK. Would it hurt to throw a few more vowels in there? Or LBA, that'll do. Right. Anyway, so what do I think of him? Even though I can't spell his name, I've got him to win by decision. 13 wins, 13 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw. I nearly got muddled up there. Won't be the first time tonight even, but Two fights in the UFC, multiple fights over in LFA before that, which is very much one of the better stepping stones for the UFC. Um, he's and the thing is, he's quite versatile. He's got KO wins, he's got submission wins, but I'm not still not 100% convinced what kind of level those have come at. Having said that, I don't think Matthias Rozbecki is going to necessarily represent the step up in competition I feel he needs at this point in his career. It's a hard fight, but yeah, like I say, I feel like it's a little bit. I feel like Olabi should be a bigger favourite than he is, but obviously Matthias Rebecki, in theory, a better record on paper, 19-2, more UFC fights, came through the Contender Series, and he's going to give him a serious test. But I don't know. I still just my gut feeling is just going with Olabi for that. Yeah, like I say, he's looked good so far. He still needs that step up in competition, but if the only negative you can really say is that we need to see him at a higher level, that is pretty good going. So I'm fairly confident in that one for Piggy Bank. Anyway, move on to Rigno next, taking on the substitute wheel. Still very much making a conscious effort to hit that done button, not the remove one, but here we go. Let's see who's going to get drawn with. It's Robert Whittaker for it's Robert Whittaker for Rigno there. I was going to say, how would I love to see Robert Whittaker beat Hamza Chimaev? That would be wonderful. Having said that, I'm just going to get out of the way. I've got Chimaev to win by decision, and I'd expect the fight to play out in a fairly similar way to Chimaev's last fight. Funny enough, almost a year ago today against Kamaru Usman, where yes, we beat Kamaru Usman, but he's he definitely had some holes in his game. That was the first time we've seen a Chimaev that's genuinely looked beatable. There isn't this smashing machine monster, or he he does have weaknesses like any other fighter, and I feel like Robert Whittaker can definitely show that as well. He's one of the best in the division, quite frankly, and has been for several years. So, not completely unwinnable, but yeah, and I am sort of leaning sort of 60%, 40% more towards Chimaev for that one. But again, maybe that 40% you're factoring a little bit of bias as well. So, but yeah, no, it's not a lot I can say for that one, really. Whittaker would. I could reel off all his accomplishments in middleweight. That would take forever. We don't have all night because he's fought and beaten so many great guys. But yeah, let's. But Chimaev does look like a very good prospect, especially if he's coming into this one in full health. So we'll see. But I reckon it's going to be a similar kind of fight to the one we saw last year against Usman. Shat next to take on the substitute wheel. We, of course, instantly went to click on any part of the wheel, and now you have to be more precise. Click on the spin. The sounds does come up this time. I wonder if these spins are shorter or longer than the other one. I'm not sure. They're faster. And it's Dan Idge there for Shat. So obviously that's obviously there's a head-to-head in against Leroy Murphy. Who got it was Dr. Maxis 2, that's right. Who had Leroy Murphy earlier. So I suppose that's at the moment our Lucky Bastard Game main event. Because we haven't had any double ups yet. We haven't had any head to heads as far as I can recall. So as I say in that one earlier, Murphy to win by decision is still my pick. I did mention that Inge is probably, if the fight were to finish, it's going to probably come from Dan's side. Having said that, I still think the chances of Murphy winning another decision massively outweigh the chances of Dan finding the finish. So, yeah, that's all I'm going to say for that one is hopefully Inch's experience will work in his favour on that night. Maybe he'll finally get a decision from the judge. The substitute Will's taken too kindly to Shat. So yeah, let's see if Dan Inch can win that one for Shat anyway. The Dirty UFC man next, down to the last three now. The sound comes up again. I wonder if that's a bit of foretelling of how the pick's going to go. Where does the sound come? He gets Victor Hugo. I'm never going to get bored of that jingle. I must say that's my ringtone or some shit. Maybe I can, if it isn't copyrighted, I'm fucking stealing that as a little theme tune for the Lucky Bastard game. But yes, maybe it's in the public domain. Who knows? Let's hope so. If it's in the public domain, I'm abusing the shit out of that. Anyway, Victor Hugo, obviously up against Farid Basharat, who again another one who's known for going the distance, but again he's been putting on good fights. He's been winning fights. All we can ask for, isn't it? He's quite a big favorite as well, -500 favorite, and even that's generous, but it's justified. Obviously, you always like to try find value in bets and in gambling, but sometimes the favorite is the favorite for a reason. And I feel that is very much applicable to this fight. In short, I genuinely can't see any realistic way of how Victor Hugo wins this. It's he's had one fight in the UFC, one fight in Contender Series, whereas Basharat already feels like he's been in the UFC a while. I don't know how many fights he's had, but I feel like he's been very low key, very active. He's and yeah, I feel like I've been seeing a lot of him. I'm going to have to take a closer look into his record actually, like at some point later on. But long story short, this is another very winnable fight. Yeah, quite simply, the Dirty UFC man's been drawn with a fighter, and that fighter's opponent is a heavy favourite. It's just the way it goes sometimes. I just can't see Victor Hugo beating Farid Basharat. It's as simple as that, I'm afraid. Okay, so down to the penultimate ones now. The MMA historian. A little bit of sadness coming over me as I realise I'm only going to hear this jingle two more times tonight. But historian. Let's see how you get on. Jeff Neal. Jeff Neal, therefore, I can't even take this real seriously. Anyway, Jeff Neal, excuse me, right? Jeff Neal, the MMA historian, is the dance partner for that one. So how do I see it going? Well, for first time for what feels like a little while, I have actually picked this fighter. I've picked him to win by decision. Again, another fighter, as I mentioned earlier. Yeah, he's had a few losses recently. His last one, Ian Machado Gary, massive prick, by the way, by the look, flipping him off after beating him. We're like, fuck off with that shit. Anyway, and then obviously Shavkat Rachmanov again. No, you can't complain about losing to him. So again, you can't really knock him for those ones. Very experienced fighter as well, but having said that, not as much experience as his opponent Rafael dos Anjos. Obviously former champion, former lightweight champion. This is obviously now welterweight, but and obviously it's been a while since RDA was the lightweight champion. But yeah, with the trouble with that is obviously he's he's getting on a little bit now. He's 40 years old. He's still a very tough competitor. He still deserves to be in around the rankings, and he's still a very solid gatekeeper. I suppose he's effectively now becoming the welterweight version of what Andrei Arlovsky was for heavyweight until a few years ago. Or was it last year? It got cut. But I feel like he's going to be that big legendary champion, which consistently you have to get through to get to the rankings, or get into the higher echelons of the rankings anyway. Um, yeah, so the only downside with that is, given his age, I'm not sure how many fights he's got left in him. And I'd say he's a little bit more past it over the hill than Jeff Neal is. So just because of that, I reckon Jeff Neal is going to win by decision there. Obviously, I can't see Neal finishing him, but I think RDA's still got too much quality for that. But maybe he can roll back the years and snatch a win. But Neal's the favourite for this, and just rightly so again, I think. And now finally we have Trig. So here we go. This has been a very this has probably been the most unique video I've ever recorded in this, obviously. Yeah, so it's largely uneventful, luckily. That's the one thing I will say about it. I'm glad nothing's gone wrong majorly with this. One last spin. Let's keep it going. Let's see who Trig gets drawn with. Definitely spins faster than the other wheel, that's for sure. But then it down more rapidly, I feel. Oh, we're off now. But no, it's Bruno Ferreira there for Trig. Bruno Ferreira. Oh, bloody hell. Oh, this shit is taking so long to load. Sorry. Right. Anyway, Bruno Ferreira. That's another head-to-head because obviously up against Abus Magomedov, who had Abus earlier. Kalfoth all the way earlier in the video. As I mentioned earlier, I've got Abus to win by third round knockout for that one. Simply because, as I've said earlier, I think he's just at a higher level. Abus deserves to be well into the rankings. Does Bruno Ferreira? I think he definitely justifies breaking his way into the rankings. Obviously, I say this, I never actually check the official rankings. I've got a vague idea of what they look like, but I never actually check them because, quite frankly, I don't really give a shit because I don't trust how it's done, really. I mean, glazing of certain fighters, the burying of other certain fighters, but anyway, going off on a tangent there. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, Ferreira's best chance is probably one punch knockout power that he's got. He's a very, very strong fighter, very dangerous fighter, but it's overall is just Abus is more well rounded. He's fought a higher level. I think that experience and that skill set is just going to just be too much for him. Right. Okay. So that concludes our third round draw for the 25th edition of Tapology Lucky Bastard Game. Once I get back onto the Excel sheet again, once this shares, we're just going to say goodbye to the substitute wheel. Thank you for the substitute wheel for stepping in on short notice. Thank you for that jingle. It was very nice of you to bring that along. Hopefully by next week we'll have the original wheel up and running again. So the old wheel that you love to hate will be back. But if Error 403 rears his ugly head again, maybe not. But anyway, just go through those one last time. Just check we are on Excel now. Yeah, we are. Boom Shakalaka with Carlos Neal. Cal Foth with Abus Magomedov. Cool Hand Puke with Bruno Silva. Damien Handel 420 with Kennedy Nzechukwu. Again, butchered that one, apologies. Dr. Maxis 2 with Lee Roan Murphy. Falcon Sam with Armin Petrosian. See, this is the gap I was talking about earlier. It's quite a block of you all got eliminated. Um, Piggy Bank with Mike Terry Beck are a low buy. Again, butchered that one. Apologies. Rigno with Robert Whitaker. Shat with Dan Inge. The Dirty UFC Man with Victor Hugo. The MMA Historian with Jeff Neal. And finally, Trig with Bruno Ferreira. So, uh, that's the final draw for what the new substitute wheel has given us on its Tapology Lucky Bastard Game debut. Um, Maybe that we'll see more of it. Maybe we won't. Just depends if how serious this 403 issue is. Again, I'm not a nerd. I don't know what that means. All I know is turning it off and back on again didn't work. So, and refreshing the page didn't work. So, and as we all know, they are the only troubleshooting methods available. Basically, if you have a problem with your PC and shutting it down doesn't work and refreshing doesn't work, you have to throw the whole thing out. There's no way you can fix these things. But anyway, uh, as for everyone else, good luck with this with your fighters you've been assigned with. Good luck to everyone watching with their picks on Tapology. Good luck if you got bets on this card, and until next week, whether it's the old wheel, whether it's the new wheel, so long for now.